In this video, we're going to practice using congruent chords to find an arc measure. So for these two examples, we're really going to be using this first theorem that we talked about, and that told us that if two minor arcs are congruent, if and only if their corresponding chords are congruent. And so we can go in either direction there. So in number 1, it says in the diagram, circle P is congruent to circle Q. So that's important. These two circles are congruent, so I know I can use my theorem. FG is congruent to JK. We see that marked here. And the measure of arc JK is equal to 80 degrees. Find the measure of arc FG. Well, I see that JK is congruent to GF in those markings. I see I do have two congruent circles, and I know that because the radii are congruent. And so I know from my theorem that therefore the arc of that chord is going to be congruent. So that means that JK is congruent to arc FG. By our theorem. And since the arc of JK is 80 degrees, that means that the measure of arc FG is also equal to 80 degrees. Okay, number 2 says use a diagram to answer the following. So first it says if measure of arc AB is 110 degrees, we'll go ahead and mark that in here. Find the measure of arc BC. So I know from my theorem that if the chords are congruent, then the arcs are congruent. I see that chord AB and chord BC are both equal to 9, so that means that they are, in fact, congruent. So that means that arc AB is going to be congruent to arc BC, so that means the measure of BC is also equal to 110 degrees. Okay, now let's look at part B. Now, part B says if measure of arc AC is 150 degrees, so AC is 150 degrees, find the measure of arc AB. So this one's a little bit trickier. We have to kind of remember some stuff that we learned about in earlier lessons. So I know this part of the arc is 150. I know since AB is congruent to BC, that these arcs are also congruent. So since I'm trying to find AB, let's mark that as X. I know that BC would also be X. So I have 3 different parts here, X, X, and 150. Now I have to remember what is the degree measure of the whole circle. Well, we'll remember that all of these angles measures add up to 360. So I can create an equation from there. X plus 150 is equal to 360. And now I can solve that. So I'm going to subtract 150 from both sides. And I get X plus X is 2X is equal to 210. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get that X is equal to 105. So the measure of AB, arc AB is equal to 105 degrees.